Hey guys. This is part 14 of What If Shikamaru was the main character. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 66. The Cat and the Canary. Kakashi's hiding from guy spot #26.5. Seeing as Kakashi-sensei was still teaching me sealing, it didn't take him long to cotton on to the fact that I was doing extra projects next to the ones he'd already given me. He'd gotten scary good at being able to decipher seals quickly in the time I'd known him. I suppose to some people it was emotionally weird that a man with the epithet sensei was in fact still learning at a prodigious rate, as much of a student as his own students. But logically, Kakashi-sensei was still a young man in his prime, and a shinobi still in his 20s had no business not learning. Like sharks, we always had to keep moving forward and honing our skills, or die. A self-destruct seal for corpses. You know, we have those already, he said. Yeah, I basically cribbed all of the source calligraphy from the AMBU files, which I had gotten with the assistance of the ever-helpful Izumo and Kotetsu. Though Kakashi-sensei knew this, of course, because he and Yamato had also been involved. I'm just tweaking it a bit for a custom purpose, shrinking it so it's small enough to fit on, say, a forehead? What are those two circles for? Eyes. They look like they're specifically for eyes. Kakashi-sensei's eyebrows disappeared under his forehead protector. My, Shikamaru, indulging in a little clan drama, are we? I'm not doing this for no reason. Hinata is Choji's friend. And my friend. Kakashi-sensei held up both his hands. Hey, I'm not faulting you for that. Practically everyone in Konoha except for the small subset of main house Hyugas and the Hyuga clan elders find it a barbaric and outdated practice. I'm just hoping you don't have your fingers in so many pies that you forget which ones are where. You and my dad seem to manage just fine. I think I'll take my chances. Anyway, this is Hinata's business. My only deliverables are the unsealing process and the new seal, simplified in such a way that she and her branch family allies can reliably apply both without getting anyone blown up. I think I've gotten it so anyone with neat enough handwriting and the chakra control of the most basic medic can pull it off, which applies to pretty much all the Hyuga. You mean for Hinata to take credit for freeing the branch family members? Interesting. You know, the support of the Hyuga are probably going to be instrumental in the upcoming 5th Hokage power grab, and something like this might destabilize them. I wonder if they'll still be a strong enough support base against Danzo. The clans are, at this point, opposed to Danzo no matter what. But the clan elders are still from his generation. They might not put Danzo directly in power, but it's a non-zero possibility that they'll throw their weight behind some ultra-militant old guard who isn't Danzo but subscribes to his ideology anyway, rather than a more moderate candidate like the rest of the clan heads and the Sannin prefer. Anyway, the Hyuga clan won't stay destabilized for long. This isn't some civil war between two halves of the family, but 99% of them versus a tiny ruling class that is entirely dependent on this one seal for power. I see. You think they're more destabilized now than they will be in the long run. Eliminate the oppressors, and the rest will come out more tight-knit? Kakashi-sensei asked. Things don't work out so rosily in real life, I admitted, but that's usually small countries with little history of self-rule, a lack of experienced and educated leaders, and lots of warring ethnic groups. The Hyuga clan, on the other hand, is a single enclave inside a more well-established government, with a well-placed chain of succession and good candidates for leadership already in place, small enough that Hinata will realistically get to know everyone. So, less civil war in an already war-torn country and more old guard getting ousted from a political party. Way less blood and time and resources spent. You've certainly thought this through. Hinata thought this through. She's seen what Ino managed to do, though admittedly the Yamanaka clan is way less fractured than the Hyuga. Ino was still getting help from us, as well as Choji's dad and my dad. But still, the fact that everything under her was running so smoothly was a testament to her savvy and all-around badassery. Kakashi-sensei smiled. I fear for the day when you finally get power, young man. I looked up from my calculations and frowned. Was he making a comment on me? I wasn't acting like too much of a tyrant, was I? Oh, don't worry. Nothing like that. I dare say your generation will be in the hands of the most well-organized bureaucrats in decades. Kakashi-sensei pursed his lips. Where will we get our entertainment from, I wonder? Normally those in politics aren't nearly so competent. I'd say the 3rd Hokage and my dad aren't too bad. Choji's dad too? Kakashi-sensei shot me a look. Okay, fine, that's 2 people. Hayashi Hyuga is his own deal. I won't speak ill of the dead, I barely knew Sasuke's dad anyway. And you don't count. You're you, Kakashi-sensei smiled, and for once it wasn't sarcastic. He looked genuinely enthusiastic about this whole thing. I really hope this succeeds. Really. I mean it. I especially want to be there when the right and honorable Hyugadano finds out what's really going on. I mean, Hinata and I already knew each other because of Choji, but it's everyone else that Hinata knows that will help. If this succeeds, I mean, it better. I know it's stupidly optimistic to hope that the entire Hyuga clan will, but I can't be anything other than optimistic. There's been so little to be optimistic about lately, and I'm frankly sick of being anxious and paranoid all the damn time. Kakashi-sensei shrugged. I'd say this deal you struck with Hinata is quite profitable one. Smart of you. Really? I asked. I would have expected some sarcastic or cryptic remark from you by now. I see no reason why this is a bad idea. I'd be stopping you if it was, Kakashi-sensei said. Some people trade with money. Others, with power. He glanced at the Hokage tower, and then fixed his gaze on me. Others still, with information. And then his face tilted up at the Shodame's trees. If you're especially careful, you might even be able to trade favors. Loyalty is an unreliable form of currency among strangers, but for those who matter. I knew Enko was firmly on our side because she felt indebted to us for killing off Orochimaru. Then there were Izumo and Kotetsu, who were now Jonin, whereas in another world they would have been stuck as Chunin forever, probably. All of the staff at the mission desk, Kakashi-sensei nodded, as if he could sense my thoughts. Among other things. I think she likes you, actually, really. That was surprising. While she had left quite a lasting impression on me, I had been unsure if the reverse had also been true. And we hadn't spoken directly in a while. I wondered if she still cared. Yes, really. And even the clan heads, and the Sannin, and the Hokage. He scratched the back of his head in resignation. Right. I understand. I was not happy with that either. His eye curved into an unhappy half-smile. Well, at least you're doing something properly. I have no idea who your acquaintances are. He said that in a way that implied that he very damn well knew who my acquaintances were, except for Enko, and the other Jonin-sensei, and your ANBU friends, and Jiraiya, and Tsunade, and all the people whose lives you saved while on past missions. I couldn't imagine who your acquaintances are. I paused. Oh, wait. His voice was as grim as his smile. You're playing a dangerous game here, Shikamaru. I'll be careful, I promise. I won't lose, I declared. Oh, I don't doubt your abilities. You're the type of person to figure things out no matter what. But your father won't approve of you getting involved so early. What can I say? He protects you in his way, and I protect you in mine. I, for one, think it'll be more dangerous to try to shield you, because you're already stuck in this mess regardless of what I do. You're in it too, then, I concluded. Perhaps. Well, of course. He wouldn't have survived so long in his position, not knowing where all the invisible strings were. But his situation was different. His motives were unclear to me. I didn't believe for a second that he was playing for the same reason as everyone else on the power ladder was, otherwise he'd have immediately grabbed at the Hokage's hat without any of the usual delaying tactics, either the obvious ones, or the subtler, more effective ones that were hidden behind the obvious ones. Kakashi-sensei did not operate on the same desires as they did. He had no honor to tie his hands, and no reputation apart from his use as a shinobi, which was too necessary to Konoha to sabotage, even despite his current lack of ninjutsu, and he hated responsibility too much to actually want a position of authority. Yet he was not so irresponsible that he'd hang around just to watch others fall and fail for his own amusement. Whatever reason he was fighting for, it was not to win. Sensei, why are you doing this? That's for me to know and for you to find out. I glared at him. Do you derive some perverse pleasure from screwing with me? Maybe. Is that really necessary? How else are you going to improve? Through the thin material of his mask, I could see his lips morph into a shark-like grin. It is, after all, my duty as a teacher to figure out what style my students react to best, and adjust accordingly. Back when I first met you, Naruto needed focus, Ino needed discipline, and you, my friend, need challenges. Now, Naruto and Ino have mostly leveled out, but you are just the same as ever. Kakashi-sensei was definitely a challenge to deal with, I give him that, and yet I couldn't help but admire that. Somehow, with absolutely nothing, he managed to worm his way into the most versatile spot on the board. No motives except for survival, and no attachments except for our team and Aika Aika. I already knew from repeated experience with his antics that there was always a method to his madness. Now I was learning there was also a reason for the madness, other than simply because it's funny, as he often claimed. I am the element of surprise, his one closed eye seemed to say. I keep things exciting. I am the one everyone wants on their team, but also the one everyone is afraid to have on their team. The one you have to trust out of circumstance, and nothing else. All that aside, Kakashi-sensei said, I've decided I'm going to help you get what you want, in spite of this nasty business with the hat, and your father, and your father's board game night friends, and the one old geezer that doesn't get invited to the rest of the retirement home's knitting circles. So you better not make me regret it. Really? I asked. Before you say thank you, let me warn you that my help is not unconditional. Firstly, while you do have the right to ask me for specific requests, that doesn't necessarily mean I will follow through. I will give you only what I want to give you, when I want to give it. I will do as I, and not anyone else, pleases. For now, our interests coincide, but if in the future they do not. He stopped talking and laughed. Let's just say, I will not hesitate to engage in a bit of trickery. I respected his surprisingly firm grip on his own identity, but obviously, the way in which he phrased his offer was worrisome. This was my own sensei. Wasn't he supposed to be able to be unconditionally trustworthy? Almost as soon as that thought had formed in my mind, I began laughing uncontrollably. In my own head, of course. What sort of world do you think you live in, that a shinobi could ever be trusted unconditionally? Have you forgotten all those other times he lied and manipulated you and your team for the sake of, what, training? What about the others? Like, you, Naruto, and Ino. Just the three of you. So, no Choji. Or my family. Or, no. For your sake, I'll probably be vaguely aligned with them anyway, but there is no guarantee I'll include them on my list. At the end of the day, I'm always on my own side. But don't worry. Your allies can probably take care of themselves anyway, so it's not like any of this crap I'm spewing will make a difference. All of that is for my own good. I asked, narrowing my eyes. I wouldn't be so pretentious to call it the entire truth. It's what I perceive to be for your good. Not necessarily what you think to be for your good. Then again, it's also my support. It comes in the package deal. Take it or leave it. Be glad I'm even warning you in the first place. Well, fine. He might lie and manipulate and trick me, but he wouldn't betray me. Everything he'd done for us had been entirely sincere. Ino and I were both good at reading people, and I knew he wasn't lying. At least, not here. I thought back to what Enko had warned me about so long ago. What my father would speak of in my nightmares. Fine, I said, after a long period of silence. I trust you. His face froze for a split second. And then it was gone, yet another different mask unfolding in its place. For a supposed genius, he drawled, that might have been one of the dumbest decisions you've ever made. And then, with all the casual grace of a well-fed cat walking away from its first entertainment kill, he strolled along the length of the wall and disappeared. Kumogakure. The new Kazekage really was quite something. Anyway, I think it's absolute bullshit that Konoha has 2 Jinchuriki in their possession, while Kumo only has 1 and the rest of us have basically 0. Kiri doesn't count, of course. Oh. How low for Kirigakure to have sunk, to be considered a non-entity by even Sunigakure. You are proposing that we both attack Konoha, and divvy up their Jinchuriki? I asked. Temari shrugged. You said it, not me. I assume you want your brother back. Of course. And you guys wanted the Kyuubi in the past. It's a fair deal. Everyone's happy. Everyone gets what they want, if we succeed. Steepled his fingers. Oh, don't worry about that. Oanoki won't give up a chance to stick it to his old rivals. All of IWA absolutely hates Konoha. They've had several years of peace to rebuild. They're itching at the chance to rejoin. Konoha can't fend off 3 of us at once, even if they get help from dying Kiri and the smaller villages. You sound very confident, coming from a village who got its ass kicked by Konoha, a goaded. Konoha didn't even have to lift a finger, I hear. They could count their losses on one hand. I don't want to be stuck carrying a useless ally, Temari snorted. Before you point out that IWA and Suna have been feuding for ages, don't act like you aren't also thinking the same thing. Konoha's been uppity for too long now. It's time they were on the losing side of a war for once. And we were the ones with the useless ally, thank you very much. Orochimaru was a traitor and a scoundrel, who did more by accident to help the village he abandoned than himself. I pondered this. While he could quite truthfully say to himself that while he had nothing against Konoha, he wouldn't hesitate to destroy them if it suited Kumo. Every Kage put his own village first, and there was no village more self-serving than his own. Kumogakyo was known for being the one wildcard village in every conflict. Iwa and Konoha always took opposite sides on almost every issue. This was something A prided himself, and his predecessors, on. Such a position always put Kumo in a very advantageous bargaining scope every time there was a political summit. An industrial and military power as great as theirs, combined with pseudo-neutral politics, always meant that whatever happened, Iwa and Konoha, and he supposed, now Suna, would be catering to his demands in the hope that he would side with one of them. Given the precarious position of Suna and Kiri right now, Kumo was not only a highly desirable ally, they were the last major village anyone could count on to provide aid. And thus, the village that Kumo sided with would hands down be the winner of whatever war broke out next, regardless of how many other allies the other nation carried. A was no political mastermind, being a man of action, and he hated back-and-forth politics like this. But all the same, he'd suffer through it if necessary. He knew that Hiruzen Sarutobi was treading carefully around him, even with all of the trouble he'd caused on their northern borders as of late. Hiruzen Sarutobi could not afford to alienate his aide right now, though it did impress how quickly Konoha was to spring up to self-defense, and he thought they'd gone soft after everything that happened. First their precious Yondaime, and then their most powerful clan, wiped out in 2 nights. The news of the Uchiha massacre had traveled far and wide. There was no canning something as big as that. But those damn Leaf Nin were still fighting. He should have expected it, really, what with all of their will of fire crap. I knew better though. Lightning Country had better fighters and industries, but it was the Leaf that produced the best liars out of all of them. It was all just a massive psychological ploy. There were no good guys in war, and yet somehow Konoha still managed to take up that mantle. I regarded old Sarutobi with more caution than he did Oanoki. Oanoki was a man of earth and steel, but so were his brains. Sarutobi was dangerous. The skillful way he had wrapped his old wrinkly fingers around the Sand's neck showed that there was still plenty of fight left in him yet. It was surprising incidents like these that reminded the world why Konoha was the oldest hidden village in existence, why they were still around. The Iwa Nin were known for being sneaky double-crossers. Konoha Nin weren't, which only made them all the more dangerous, because no matter what skin he wore, a ninja was still a ninja, and A for all his life could not figure out why the hell Konoha Nin of all the villages were regarded as these honorable samurai in shining armor, according to civilians, and a bunch of dumb smiley wimps playing superhero, according to the other villages, when anyone with half a brain would realize that hired spies and assassins were the same everywhere. You just didn't pump out all of those child geniuses, and head cases, like Orochimaru or Itachi Uchiha by sitting back and being nice, so that begged the question. If A joined with Suna and Iwa, he'd definitely get something out of it. But something didn't guarantee the QB. Unlike the last time Kumo had tried, where the host was a little untrained girl, they'd be dealing with still a kid, but far from untrained. He didn't put much faith in horror stories for the sake of horror stories, but he definitely trusted his intel. The boy had already tapped into multiple tales, 6 or 7 at the last count. He was reported to have taken down S-ranked missing Nin. Not just any missing Nin, either, Akatsuki members, if the volume of bounty money making its way to Konoha was any indication. Catching him wouldn't be easy, and even if they did, keeping him contained would be difficult. They'd have to sedate him, not an easy task as drugs work differently when Bijou Chakra was being thrown into the mix. And they'd also need to have a compatible host on hand to extract the tailed beast immediately should they successfully capture him. In all honesty, they should have gone after him when he was still a little kid, but at the time the identity of the Konoha Jinchuriki was still fuzzy. People didn't even know if they had one, since for a very long time it was assumed that the Kyuubi had either dissipated or been killed along with the Yondaime, and anyway, Kumo was still on thin ice after the failed Hyuga kidnapping attempt. Clever Sarutobi. By the time everyone got their collective asses together and figured out who the Kyuubi Jinchuriki was, too late. Kakashi fucking Hitaki had already gotten his claws in, and A was well aware the kind of trouble prying that death grip off would invite. I'll think about it, he told Tamari. Send me a hawk, she replied, and then the little brat smirked, like she knew something he didn't. Fucking teenagers, the Akatsuki hideout. So, Zabuza said, hoping to the gods he was being as subtle as he thought he was. Why the hell did you defect, Kisame? Kisame shrugged. Mist was already going to shit anyway. Because of Yagura and all that crap. So I packed up my shit and left. That's all? Zabuza asked. Well, I never liked Kirigakure much. It was a house, but not a home, get what I'm saying? Growing up looking like a fucking fish, I was always a circus freak to them, even if they didn't say anything about it. Here, well, you never got to meet him, but Kakuzu was this patch job of a guy, and Sasori's a freaking puppet, so, looking for people like me, you know? Kisame turned back to Samahata. They were here, bonding over their giant-ass swords. As Mei had predicted. Clever woman. I'm not a noble bastard like you, Zabuza snorted. Me, a noble bastard? Come now, don't tell me you tried assassinating Yagura because you wanted to be the Mizukage yourself, did you? You never wanted that effing hat. You were trying to free your people from a tyrant like the bloody hero you never were, alright? You got me. Fat load of good it did me in the end. The Mizukage guards decided to turn on me and label me missing Nin instead of helping me out like a bunch of smart people. They didn't realize I was trying to help them, the ungrateful idiots. It wasn't a lie. Zabuza just hoped that revealing this bit of information about him would get Kisame to spill. Yeah, the world is made of dumbass. Someone once told me that life was worthless. I agreed wholeheartedly, Kisame said. Who told you that? Kisame paused, as if wondering if he should divulge this, and then shrugged again, in that carefully practiced screw it, I don't care anymore gesture. The leader of the Akatsuki. Why else would I be here? Zabuza raised an eyebrow. You mean Pain? Kisame snorted, slapping his knee. Heh. Ah, you naive little fool. Yeah, Pain can destroy you if he wants, but, his voice dropped to a whisper. Don't tell anyone I told you this, but there's another man behind him. He's just the figurehead. Zabuza feigned skepticism. Are you just saying that, or do you actually have proof? Had proof. The night I left was the night I met him. Yagura came to me, and I thought I was caught, but then this other guy appeared behind him and invited me to join the Akatsuki. He called himself Madara Uchiha, and he had a Sharingan. I saw it, clear as night. That was when I knew, if I had doubts about getting out of mist earlier, those were gone now because the village was thoroughly fucked. A Sharingan? Zabuza asked, scarcely able to believe his luck. Just one, Kisame confirmed. I don't believe you, Zabuza challenged. Always fact check. And lo and behold, Kisame rose to the bait. You want proof? Go take a look, next time Pain and Conan go off and disappear on their own. Let me tell you one thing, it's not because they're secretly dating. Chapter 67, The Concert of Nations, the Akimichi clan compound. During a completely normal and not at all politically motivated visit between old family friends, I dropped off the completed modified version of the Hyuga seal at Choji's house. During a completely normal and not at all politically motivated visit between current teammates, Hinata could pick it up from him later. If anything happened, the answer was to deny, and deny again, until the heat death of the universe. Whatever became of that seal, it was in Hinata's hands now. Hinata knew that she'd owe me for this, but for the rest of the world, no one needed to know that I was helping supply an insurgency within one of Konoha's great clans. Whoever came up with this ingenious seal that could disrupt the peace, it sure as hell wasn't me. After all, despite my famous teachers, I was just a novice to the art of Fuinjutsu. No way could any teenager, even one as smart as a Nara, discover one of the Hyuga clan secrets. This was totally the act of clan insiders, biding their time until a ripe opportunity for an internal coup presented itself. The branch members had had centuries to stew in indignation and plot revenge. It had to be one of them. I rehearsed the excuse within my head. As long as Kakashi-sensei backed me up, I'd be fine. As my teacher, he could say with certainty just how far I had gone in my sealing studies, which was actually pretty damn far, given how hard he'd been riding all of our asses during our daily training sessions. Do you think something seems off with Kakashi-sensei? I blurted out. When isn't there something off with Kakashi-sensei, should be your question, Ino muttered, rubbing salve into her burned fingertips. Naruto and I winced sympathetically. We, too, had been pushed to our limits in our training, but it was definitely Ino who was dealing with our errant teacher to most out of all of us. Naruto, at least, got his breaks with Jiraiya and Yamato when doing his training with the Kyuubi and his newfound powers over his chakra chains. I was mostly left to my own devices, since Kakashi-sensei knew that I was the type to self-motivate and self-teach, and because Fuinjutsu was something I had to figure out independently. Ino, meanwhile, was learning how to integrate lightning jutsu with her Yamanaka clan jutsu, either of which any smart teacher would let her do unsupervised, unless they wanted her to be a melted pile of brain vegetable soup and one of Danzo's puppets as the new Yamanaka clan head. Besides, Kakashi-sensei was a master of lightning ninjutsu even without use of chakra in his arms, and he wasn't going to let an opportunity like this pass by without his witness. A curious Kakashi-sensei was dangerous, but still miles preferable to a bored Kakashi-sensei. No, but I bit my lips and tried to figure out how to explain my recent conversation with him. He seemed to know something was coming up. You know how he wants to keep us genin under his wing forever. Obviously that hadn't happened. We were chunin despite his best efforts and would in all likelihood become jonin soon enough. Anyway, having a genin team and being a Hokage at the same time was not exactly time efficient. Naruto nodded. Yeah, I mean, I understand why. Because my dad, and his old team, and all that stuff. It's not like indulging him is a bad thing. We're alive so far, aren't we? And the Hokage thing? Well, Ino swallowed. The third Hokage still kept a close relationship with the Sannin. He became Hokage quite young too, but he still trained them. Kakashi-sensei is close to 30, and we are chunin, close to jonin. I leaned in. Even if he's in charge, we still have certain duties as active duty ninja. Naruto blinked, and then, in a move that surprised even me, he said, You're thinking ANBU. Yeah. I am. I'm not surprised. If I was Kakashi-sensei, I'd think the risk of ANBU was worth it, too. Trouble keeps following us, whether we're in ANBU or the regular forces. At least with ANBU, he'd be able to keep a closer eye on us, Naruto said. Ino took our hands. I mean, I guess I knew it was coming. I'm a Yamanaka. Anyway, as long as we're doing it together, it shouldn't matter. No, I said, I guess it doesn't. It feels weird, Naruto said. I've always wanted to be one of the elite ever since I was a little kid, but now I don't even know what that is. I don't feel any more powerful than I used to be. You've gotten used to a new normal, that's all, said Ino. Yeah, as normal as Kakashi-sensei can be, Naruto snorted. It's not like ANBU is that elite, anyway, I pointed out. They're not all like Sensei or Itachi Uchiha. A chunin of reasonable fighting skill can get in if they can keep their mouths shut. That was the whole point of ANBU, and why Gai-sensei would never, ever become one of the masked men, even if he could beat up nearly all of them. The elites in ANBU weren't elite fighters. They were elites of mental discipline, and naturally it took a certain brand of mental discipline that kept them suicidally loyal and unquestioningly obedient no matter what. Murder babies, don't want any potential succession crises, torture children, easy way to keep their parents in line, and other assorted crimes against humanity for the sake of power and stability, as you do, all in the name of plausible deniability. They took the jobs that not even regular shinobi could take, operating outside of the chain of command, only answering to the Hokage. With the exception of the so-called root members, but they didn't count because they weren't real people. Haha, the land of iron. Please do not speak to me of undeserved aggression. Need I remind you, said Sarutobi, that Konohagakure no Sato has never fought an offensive war. Liar, a thought. Konoha has never declared war without purposefully goading someone else to declare war on them first, so they can maintain their squeaky clean image of not being the aggressor. But he said nothing. You're wasting my time here, Onoki growled. Let me know why I shouldn't leave this room right now. Had Onoki been in a calmer state of mind, he might have noticed that Sarutobi was just using a classical aggression scare negotiation tactic commonly employed by belligerent fishwives and open barter farmers' markets, designed to make people acquiesce to less. But men didn't think clearly when they were angered. A unfortunately knew this as well as the next man. According to his secretaries, he demolished desks on a regular basis, and yet he never remembered a single one of those incidents. Reikage-sama, any input? Sarutobi turned to him. It took a few seconds to realize that Sarutobi had not invited him here as an observing third party to what was supposed to be a solely Iwa Konoha dispute as he had originally believed, but that Sarutobi had invited him here as a potential third member of a three-way war. And then he remembered the letter that Sarutobi had sent him, and realized that the wording had been so deliberately vague that it could have been taken either way. And A had been so busy anticipating the prospect of presenting Kumo as a willing ally to the highest bidder that he had neglected to see Sarutobi's true intentions, that he was also meant to take his own side. Here, A did not like being outsmarted. Luckily, then, that it wasn't true. But there was no proof. There was never any proof. Not with shinobi. We are open to the highest bidder, A responded carefully. It was interesting, he thought, how quickly Sarutobi had decided to invite him and Onoki to a perfectly normal peace conference after his meeting with the new Kazekage. Word in the shinobi world traveled fast. The girl was good, but she was no match for Sarutobi, who had been playing this game for so long. A doubted that Konoha spies had penetrated that deeply into Kumogakure, It was probably enough that sentries posted along national borders observed the Kazakage's travels, and increased correspondence in that direction. In a world where information was jealously guarded, one had to be very good at interpreting what little one had. If anyone even detected a little whiff of chakra that Temari left behind, they'd know she was there. This was both a warning and an information-gathering meeting for Sarutobi. He wanted to figure out what they were both planning, both flexing the might of Konoha, and nervously testing the waters. If Kumo and Suna decided to team up against Konoha, it would be a very sticky situation as it was. If IWA decided to join in, it would be all over for them. I was genuinely wondering how old Sarutobi would try to get out of this one. And suddenly, he saw it. I'm glad we realized both have the same goals. It would be a shame if we didn't. Despite the enmity, Kumo didn't actually want Konoha destroyed. Maybe, taken down a peg or two. All of them wanted to do that to each other. But to actually obliterate a village, like they did to Yuzushigokure, was to severely disrupt the balance of powers that was currently in existence. Things were already shaky enough as it was with Kiri in complete disarray. To have Konoha wiped off the map would effectively leave only 3 major villages around. If there was something Kumo didn't want, it was having to deal with IWA and Suna alone. Loyalty in the shinobi world meant that you simply hated the common enemy more than your current ally. In the past, they might have decided that he could probably count on the Sand Nin to want to attack the rock more than they wanted to attack the cloud. After all, the Land of Wind and the Land of Earth had been dealing with border disputes for as long as their existence. But with that Temari girl in power, he wasn't certain of anything anymore. Oenoki was still glaring distrustfully, but at both of them, now. Suddenly, he no longer felt as comfortable currying alliances with the Wagakure as he did before. The Tsuchikage had never trusted anyone other than his own, but usually pragmatism had won him over when it came to asking for help. Now, thanks to Sarutobi sowing those seeds of doubt in his mind, regardless of whether Kumo was innocent or not, no one would be shaking hands with anyone behind their backs. Of course, Hokage-sama. Of course, Sarutobi smiled. I'm glad you agree, Reikage-sama. As soon as A and his entourage returned back to Kumogakure, he recalled all the extraneous soldiers he had in Fire Territory home to assist in preparation for siege. The treaties from the last war had forbidden an excessive stockpiling of arms for any of the shinobi villages, major or minor, but with the way the winds were shifting now, he hardly expected anyone to keep an eye on the mountains. Besides, he was fairly certain that after this meeting, Konoha and IWA would also be returning home to do the same thing as well. There would be a war. That much was beyond doubt. But he had no idea how many sides there would be anymore. Well, it hardly mattered to A. As long as he was on the side that won. The cloud had survived before, and the cloud would survive again. Iwagakure no Sado. Contrary to popular belief, Oenoki was not a stupid man. He often let his temper show, but he had never let it get the best of him. His volatile anger had been something his teachers had spotted and corrected early on. No one in their right mind would let such a random variable run unchecked. Since then he had put it to good use sorting his combat-suitable chunin from those doomed to a lifetime of desk duty and screaming his way into an advantageous treaty. Nor was he a mindless warmonger. As much as he hated those Konoha dogs, he knew as well as the next man that any war without an ally would be disastrous. The last war hadn't been declared for no goddamn reason. They would have won, and were supposed to have won. How were they supposed to have known that old Sarutobi, that old fucker, was capable of getting their own allies to stab them in the back? Everyone liked to blame it on the Yellow Flash massacring hundreds of men all by himself in that one battle, but it was still one man in one battle. They could have still won the damn war, even with the ignominious hit to their population, but Sarutobi had pulled some diplomatic fuckery with the little satellite nations that their supply lines went through, and before long the whole thing had collapsed underneath him. As he'd said many times before, fuck Hiruzen Sarutobi. Konoha was soft on the outside, but everyone with half a brain knew that they were a bunch of liars. Which said something about certain factions sitting on his council, all of whom, despite their timed and trialed wartime commanding ability, still liked to insist that the peace-loving tree-huggers of the shinobi world were no threat. Fuck them. Fuck Konoha, fuck Sarutobi, fuck Minato Namikaze, and fuck all of his little students and grand students, and everyone else in that damn apprenticeship chain. Oh, Oenoki saw right through Sarutobi's little ploy, alright. He was trying to drive a wedge between Kumog and IWA before either of them could get together to team up against Konoha. He was playing right into Sarutobi's hands, he knew, but only because there was some truth to those fears that the leaf had played up. He hated Konoha, but he could not trust Kumo. And while he had been willing to deal with some minor backstabbing from Kumo in order to destroy Konoha before, he was questioning the wisdom of that mentality now. Konoha, as much as he hated them, was not worth the destruction of his own village, something that he hadn't suspected Kumogakure to be capable of until today, when the Hokage had drawn the duplicity of cloud politics to his attention. This was something he owed Sarutobi, he supposed, not that he'd ever admit it. So here they were, stuck in a political deadlock. Iwagakure and Kanahagakure would never reconcile while he was alive. Of that Onoki was certain. But that didn't mean that the situation would be completely hopeless between him and A. Especially not with that stupid Suna bitch offering up such a nice deal. He could deal with her later. Orders, sir? Kuratsuchi asked. Onoki gave her a rare smile. He liked his granddaughter. She was a smart one, though young. He hadn't even briefed her on the results of the summit yet. She had figured out that relations were quickly going sour with both lightning and fire all on her own. Onoki was certain that she was going to follow in his footsteps, even if it wasn't official yet. Start stockpiling defenses, he said. Iwagakure is going to war, she frowned. What? Now, of course not, he snapped. Perhaps I should have said, Iwagakure will be going to war. In the near future. Sometime. Oh, she grinned, rolling her eyes. That's what you meant. Well, that's a given. We're always preparing for war. No one's actually declared any open hostility yet. But you know what I always tell you, Onoki reminded her. After every battle, tighten your armor, the girl answered, finishing the familiar phrase with a smirk. Yes, I know. I have very tight armor, grandfather. Onoki rolled his eyes. Young people these days. And I'd wish you'd only tighten it after every battle, not every time some boy walks by. Hey, Sunagakure knows Sato. Temari, said Kankuro, do you really think it's a good idea to ally with Iwagakure? I mean, it's bloody Iwagakure. They've been at war with us for generations. The Wind Daimyo and Earth Daimyo have been squabbling over the same borders that we have. Even if the village elders agree to this, which they won't, it's not like the new Wind Daimyo or any of his nobles will agree to this, even if you're the one who put him there. Temari shrugged and tossed another paper in the out tray. Can't get stabbed in the back if you stab them first. Kankuro frowned. That's not how it works. Firstly, I'm the Kazakage, not you. Secondly, the elders and the Wind Daimyo have already agreed to it. So don't worry your painted little face about it, alright? All you need to do is fight like you've always done. We'll be giving out orders shortly. I can count on you, right? Kankuro grunted. Temari narrowed her eyes at him. Let's try that again. I can count on you, right? Yes, Kazakage-sama. Better. This whole thing was stupid, stupid, stupid. All for the prestige of a damn Jinchuriki. All for some little too skinny brat, a boy who hated them and whom they hated back. All for the sake of a little brother. No, not even, because little brother implied some kind of familial bond, whereas Garo was nothing but a genetic coincidence in the sea of humans. Kankuro hated duty and loyalty sometimes. It was all well and good if you were sitting at the top, but for the grunts underneath, it was only more and more of a burden. The Nara clan compound. Shikamaru, you're home. Hi, Mom. I didn't remember much after that. It felt cold. Not like low temperature cold, but like that swooping feeling you get in your stomach when you're dreaming that you're falling. Like I was missing something. And before I knew it, I was looking at myself, well, at my shoes. I was really short. The connection had been instantaneous. I had never done what was it called? The mind transfer jutsu. Ino, was that her name? Ino always described it as trippy, the first few times she did it. Between leaving her own body and entering the other, there was this delay period, where she was sort of floating in the air, like a ghost or like a disembodied spirit. For me, there was no time difference between the shadow split and the possession. One moment I had seen my shadow separate into two distinct pieces, and the next, I had paws and ears. I took a few experimental hops around. Except that I was also sitting on a log and staring at my father at the same time. The invading shadow moves independently of the user's original shadow. No need to rely on the position of the sun, either, my father said. That piece of your shadow is no longer bound to you. It will move on its own. Be careful, though. If your split half spends too much time chasing your target, it might never return back home. Fear. Hunger. Terror. Tired. Larger creatures scary. Want to live. Eat, not be eaten. Cold. Hunger. Fear. Home. Fear. I could hear the rabbit's thoughts. No, that wasn't it. It was more than that. This was not just the Yamanaka technique. I was not just inside the rabbit. I was the rabbit. I was Shikamaru Nara, but I had also become, I was someone else. I was me and yet not. I am me and yet not. And I was not only seeing things from its point of view but also feeling the world, experiencing the world. As if I was not me, all I as rabbit cares about is food, warmth, shelter, no don't want to be eaten, heartbeat, beat, 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 180 beats per minute. I stared at the rabbit. The rabbit stared at the human before it. I didn't like it. I had never had problems with rabbits before, but I didn't like this one. It was staring at me. I didn't like it. I stared back at myself, and then to my father, and then back at myself. I didn't like that look in my eyes. Was that what I looked like normally? No, because then Ino, was that her name? I remember Naruto, too. Which one was Ino and which one was Naruto? Would have called me a zombie and made me go home. She didn't like being seen in public next to zombies and weirdos. Which didn't really help her much, because we were all students of, I am immortal. I am invincible. Wait, what? There is no such thing as immortality. All men must die. Why would I ever say something so stupid as I am invincible? Did I really say that? Or was it the rabbit? The answer to that question, as I found out later, was simultaneously both and neither. Who were we students of? Not my dad. My dad was just teaching me. Dad, no matter how far you run, no matter how much you try to hide, no matter how hard you attempt to evade your own shadow, it will always follow you. It may disappear when there is no light around and even larger shadows hide it from vision, but that doesn't mean that it isn't there. And it will come back to you. He told me that maybe 6 years ago, during my first year in the academy when he had taught me my first shadow bending technique. No, that wasn't right. There were shadows all around the Nara compound all the time. He had told me these stories, these bits and pieces of our family history, long before he taught me my first clan technique. I was confused. The whole world turns black, like midnight. They're always there, these ghosts of the past, like a big suffocating blanket eating at your soul, and you are powerless to stop it. Wait, that wasn't shadows. That was guilt. That was a metaphor for guilt. From some book that I had read. Or epic poem. Was it? Or was it another story from my father? I swear, I had a better memory than this. Ideas last longer than people, Shikamaru. Death is cheap. Life is not. The human body is a delicate thing, the mind even more so. People die all the time. But ideas are immortal. Dad? Dad, where are you? You see the problem with this technique, Shikamaru? Having an immortal mind even when your body is blown to pieces sounds pretty fun, doesn't it? Theoretically, you could just use this technique against all your enemies, instantaneously possess them, commit suicide in their body, and then recall your shadow and leave them to die, while the rest of you is still alert enough to remain fighting, unlike the Yamanaka technique, which leaves them defenseless. But if you leave the shadow broken off for too long, strange things happen. The initial feeling is very uncomfortable. First you start to feel depressed, and insignificant, and useless. Your mind is literally in two places at once. Then you start to forget why you are even doing the possessing in the first place. When this happens, you need to get out. Because after that, you start to enjoy controlling another for the mere sake of control, and I have not gone far enough to know what that entails. What I do know is that a mind left unattended and bodiless will soon enjoy its freedom a little too much, and refuse to return. Do not think yourself above this temptation. If you let yourself go too far, your mind becomes irreversibly stuck in that state of half-consciousness. Because the only one who can stop it is you, but the loss of self makes you unwilling to end the technique. As long as you are split, you cannot stop the technique, and as long as you cannot stop the technique, you stay split. Do not try except for anything but a last resort. And do not try it with multiple targets either. One split is bad enough. Two will definitely kill you, at least mentally. Why am I here again? Before me, the rabbit was lying there, stunned, and then it jumped up and hopped away back into the forest again. Shikamaru, Shikamaru. I could feel my concentration fading. My father was still talking and calling out my name, but I couldn't really process what he was saying. I am he who walks the shadows. I am he who is a shadow. Shikamaru, Shikamaru. I'm back, I gasped. I felt as if someone had forced my head underwater and held it there, and I had just been allowed back to the surface again. I'm back. Chapter 68. The Blame Game. The Nara clan compound. That morning I woke up and puked several times. Afterwards I flopped back down on my bed and pretended that I was my father on a weekend. Eventually, though, I couldn't stand the taste of my own breath anymore and had to get up to rinse out my mouth. My bones ached with the stubbornness of two married geriatrics who had too much free time and too few constructive hobbies. Nothing left to do in their retirement to pass the time except for endlessly bickering with each other. The one thing keeping me going was the thought of Danzo Shimura and the things he could do if I gave up. For the sake of everyone I cared about, we had to get rid of him. I could try to take the easy way out and just hunt him down and kill him. Powerful ninja or not, it could be done. I knew my father was plotting the same thing. Of course, guy like him probably had lots of backdoors to ensure they'd have to keep him around. I'd seen some of my dad's stuff. I knew he had tons of things involving Konoha running on in the background that would just fall apart and take Konoha with him if someone decided to take him out prematurely. Plus, there was a very high chance I'd be caught. Even if I covered my tracks, I didn't want to risk treason. This was a ninja village. The chances of me pulling it off or not was 50-50. Sure, I knew the clan heads and the Hokage didn't like him either, but the council and the daimyo definitely did, and if push came to shove, the Hokage would probably have to try me and anyone else I involved because it was only fair. The laws stated that if one ninja murdered another ninja from the same village, that was, well, murder, as opposed to paid assassinations from a client. Those were totally okay. If he let me go, then that was setting precedent. Anyone could kill anyone, or at least the people the Hokage didn't approve of. And that would lead to chaos. There were lots of people in Konoha who were technically comrades but hated each other's guts. And then there was the matter of breakdown in law. Corruption in civilian governments was one thing. The daimyo and his little friends constantly used ninja during cabinet reorganizations. We were the force of chaos to them, but we were only human. We needed some semblance of order to survive. Within the ninja government itself, within this embodiment of chaos, we needed order. It was why these codes of honor and camaraderie between ninja of the same affiliation existed. We needed at least some safeguard for ourselves. Cheat, lie, steal, murder anyone else, fine. But with your own friends there were rules. The daimyo of a great nation could be as corrupt as he liked to hang on to power. As long as he wasn't too overtly trotting on his vassals' toes, he could probably make it out alive. It wasn't a smart idea to screw up your own workforce, but at the end of the day, peasants were peasants, and sadly there were too many of them for the guys at the top to really care about what became of them. But the Hokage was a different story. He wasn't ruling over a bunch of disorganized farmers with pitchforks, but other warrior assassins exactly like him. Sure, the Hokage was generally the most powerful ninja in the village, but that didn't mean the other jonin were totally worthless. He couldn't just randomly start killing off his own people just because he wanted to without hard evidence of wrongdoing. There would be absolute madness. The last time any Kage tried that, the hidden mist had become embroiled in civil war for an entire generation. So then, if I just randomly up and killed Danzo, I'd have to be tried, and probably found guilty. Which, I supposed it was okay, one of me dying for one of him. Unless I was so good at this assassination stuff that I could somehow get away with it. But I wasn't just some nobody. Stuff like this, the murder of a prominent ninja in Konoha, didn't just happen out of the blue, especially not from someone like me. I was well known to be of a logical disposition, and if something like this happened it would be for a reason. It would result in my clan, and anyone else affiliated with me, also being examined. If something like that happened, my father would have a hell of a time proving that it was an isolated incident, especially since he was involved in something similar himself, with other clan heads. Naturally, something like that would be considered treason, and then it wouldn't just be me executed, but my whole family. Maybe not that, since Konoha couldn't afford to lose any more soldiers, especially with war brewing. And the Hokage might let something like that slide, if the clans could spin it as, this guy was stealing our children and you weren't doing anything about it, so we had to take matters into our own hands. Also, it was just him, and not you. We weren't plotting against Konoha, just this one guy, who is technically also a traitor, mind you, but they would definitely execute the clan heads for plotting to seize power. That was still treason. The clans might be put under definite arrest. There could be political repercussions from this. Any child born into a clan, or affiliated with a clan, would end up having extra restrictions on them. They'd be living in prison, because of some idiocy I'd decided for myself. Then, regular people would start distrusting the clans. That might give way to fear, and fear might turn into mania, and mania would lead to crowds with torches and pitchforks hunting down every member of a clan, whether or not they were actually involved in that original incident of a bunch of nobles teaming up against one elder. It would be no better than Kirigakure, and if my attempt failed, then Danzo Shimura would have his way. I would be branded a traitor. Probably my father, too, since he was obviously the one who put that idea into my head. And since my father was a clan head, the entire family would be put to the chopping block, too. Wait, entire family put to the chopping block. Oh gods, what if? But fuck, I had no definitive proof. But my mind had already wandered too far, and I couldn't go back. My brain was already hung up on this new crazy idea. That was my problem. Once I found something that my brain could latch on to, it wouldn't let go until the matter was resolved. I'd read the things that Ino's father had dug up on the Uchiha clan. I knew that the story of some insane prodigy finally snapping and going to town on his own family was very likely complete bullshit. A cover-up of a cover-up for something more terrifying. That is, 1. The Uchiha clan really was planning some sort of treason out of their own arrogance and aggression, and the central government of Konoha, including Danzo and the Hokage, had taken them out with a preemptive strike. Or 2. Someone was purposely framing the Uchiha clan for the aforementioned crimes so that they could step in and fill up the power vacuum that was left when they were eliminated. Either way, this was the final missing piece of the puzzle. The Uchiha clan, for whatever reason, was murdered by the central government, for someone else's dreams of power. I thought of the current Konoha military police, once made of mostly Uchiha, and now staffed with Chunin who were either too good or too stupid for the regular paperwork, and snorted. What a revolution, indeed. It certainly wasn't for the land or the money, though both were substantial. No new construction had begun on the ruins of the clan compound, which would be locked until Sasuke deemed otherwise. Any material possessions or wealth would be similarly left in a trust until it could be inherited. The greatest thing of value that the Uchiha owned lay in their bloodlines, their eyes, their DNA. If anyone wanted to steal something from the Uchiha, then disregard their collections and lay claim to their corpses. I wanted to blame Danzo Shimura for everything, but that wouldn't be fair. I had to look at everything objectively. It could very well be that the Hokage was involved. Maybe the Uchiha did deserve it. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they had chosen to die, via Itachi Uchiha, in this freak accident, and have their deaths labeled as an unfortunate tragedy, rather than be publicly humiliated with a trial. Maybe Itachi Uchiha himself had outed them, and for that he had been given the honors of the execution. He had been in Anbu, after all. Anbu had no faces, no names, no identities. When his mask was on, he would have been Anbu animal whatever before he was Itachi Uchiha. When his mask was on, his loyalty would have been to Konoha and the Hokage before the Uchiha clan. Maybe Itachi hadn't known what was going on, and the blame had just fallen on the wrong person. Or maybe he did. Maybe he really was crazy, and this was all just a ridiculous conspiracy theory my sleep-deprived brain was coming up with out of my own boredom. You know how, when you lie in bed, awake at night, and suddenly your own brain decides to troll you and come up with the creepiest things? Yeah, that. There were just so many possibilities. I didn't have enough data. I couldn't draw a conclusion even if I did. But even if I did know the truth, what then? What was the point? Whether or not Danzo Shimura had caused this, he was still alive. Something of this magnitude, the Hokage had had years to figure out the truth. If he hadn't, then that was just incompetence to the extreme, and the Sandaime was anything but. So the Sandaime had to know the truth, and he had let it happen. So bringing it up with him would be useless. And bringing it up to the clans would also be useless, because they had no data either. Damn, what was I going to do? Dad? Yes, Shikamaru? His son stepped into the room, closed the doors, and activated the privacy seals. Checked everywhere, thoroughly, for listening devices. If you were the Hokage, and you knew a large, extremely powerful, extremely prominent clan was planning some kind of rebellion or coup d'etat, what would you do? Depends on how many people are involved. If we're still early enough that it's just a small number of people, put the ringleaders on trial. Sham trial, but whatever. Have the other clan heads serve as the jury. The clan heads sentence one of their own to execution, thus establishing legal precedent, Shikaku answered. However, for the purposes of general news dissemination, make up some more noble excuse for the deaths of the guilty party. No point in letting our enemies know of internal conflict, or scaring the regular citizens. But you already know this. What if too many people are involved already that you can't just cut off the head? Then I suppose I would have to. Shikaku trailed off and looked at his son. Was there any kind of trial? For the Uchiha? Shikamaru asked. No. You think they were planning some kind of revolt? What, all of them? Either that, or someone just decided that now would be a good time to murder a good chunk of the village's fighting force for no reason, Shikamaru said. The official position, which we know is bullshit. Yes, well. It might not be, that's not the point. I'm trying to ask you which one is more likely. 1. That the entire goddamn Uchiha clan was arrogant and uptight enough to believe that their rebellion was not only a reasonable thing to do, but also had a good chance of working? Or 2. That Danzo Shimura was so power-hungry that he was willing to commit genocide just to get his hands on a bunch of special eyes. Shikaka pondered this. I'm not sure. I know what Danzo is capable of, for the good of Konoha as they say. If he was so arrogant that he believed himself to be worth the entire Uchiha clan, maybe? Then again, I don't think he'd just do something like this out of nowhere. I think he had this plan for a while, but wasn't going to do it without a good excuse. Unfortunately for the Uchiha, they gave him one, a perfect one. That would certainly explain some things. All the inconsistencies in Inoichi's stolen reports were now starting to make sense. Did no one try diplomacy? Shikamaru asked. Maybe they did. And it didn't work. Maybe that was why it grew so out of control. The entire clan was already simmering in discontent, and the idea of a coup developed in the more extremist pockets at first. Meanwhile, the central government secretly tried to enter negotiations with the moderates, but the first rounds failed, as first rounds generally do. But they think they're making headway, so they try again. And they keep working because they think the moderates are opening up, Shikamaru continued. Problem is, the extremists haven't just been sitting around. They've been radicalizing the undecided members. By the time the moderates have found something acceptable, the advocates for violence have grown from a small handful to dozens. Too many to kill all at once without drawing attention, and suddenly negotiations are no longer an option. If Fugaku Uchiha was a radical, then they were screwed from the start. If Fugaku Uchiha was a moderate, they were still screwed, because there were now so many radicals that he couldn't control his own clan from acting out even if they tried. You knew the man personally, for longer than I have, Dad. What was he really like? Shikamaru asked. And do you think the Yondaime would have been able to succeed where the Sandaime failed? Well, the Yondaime probably wouldn't have agreed to Danzo's plan to relocate the Uchiha to the outer edges of the village in the first place, for starters. Then again, the relocation wouldn't have needed to happen if the Ninetails hadn't attacked. And the Uchiha wouldn't have been under suspicion by the rest of the village for that. As for Sasuke's father, he was a bit of a grumpy man, but I think he was a moderate. He had to have been. You know, before that whole mess with the massacre, Itachi had been considered for Godaime Hokage? That got Shikamaru's attention. What? Seriously? Just whispers. No one knew about it because it was still very early in the works. Itachi was younger than you are now, so the plan was to give him special training for a few years, until he was old enough to make a firm decision. Shikaka shrugged. I only heard the whispers about it in the first place because I was the Jonin commander. I take it the plan was scrapped. Shikaka nodded. I think that might have contributed to the discontent within the Uchiha clan. Many of the elders and higher-ups were expecting it, you know. Their clan had contributed to the founding of the village, and yet there had been no Uchiha Hokage yet. If Itachi had become Hokage, it would have solved many problems. Having an Uchiha Hokage would have pacified even the worst of the extremists. They were so close to getting what they had spent generations striving for. And then suddenly it was yanked out from underneath their feet. Why? I mean, before the massacre, I don't think Itachi Uchiha had any red flags on his file. Shikamaru frowned. You think Danzo blocked it? Shikaka shook his head. Danzo, of course, is always secretive about his ambitions, but I got the feeling that he was in support of the idea. What the hell? You're joking. Shikamaru frowned. Shikaka could see the gears in his brain turning, multiple what-ifs running through and being discarded every second. If it was some kind of reverse psychology, pretending to support a candidate so that Sarutobi would get suspicious and refuse him, it didn't work. The Sandaime was in support of Itachi, and wasn't changing his mind on that. He was the best of the best, and politically an acceptable compromise candidate. No emotional instability, no suspicious actions during missions. Hell, Kakashi-sensei was beneath him in terms of viability. Maybe it had something to do with Sasuke. Itachi had an odd relationship with him. Slated to become Hokage, kills everyone, but leaves one kid alive. For what purpose? What, did he actually love him? Exactly? Then why? That I don't know. All I know is, one day we thought all our problems would be solved, and the next, Itachi was on the run and everyone was dead. The Hokage's office. This was absolute bullshit. The Sandaime wished he could reconsider his appointment. Of course, if he did, he'd be playing right into Kakashi's trap. The immaturity was Kakashi's way of protesting his fate by any means he had left, in the vain hope that the Sandaime would get fed up and rescind the new job offer. It was not entirely unsuccessful, but the Sandaime couldn't give up now. Kakashi was here because he, as a person, worked. He'd been playing the "Tee look how eccentric I am" card for so long that no one even cared anymore. Not the daimyo, not the daimyo's advisors, not the rest of Konoha, not Konoha's enemies. Natural selection at its finest. The people who looked down upon Hatake Kakashi for his particular brand of deficiencies had been efficiently and brutally removed from the gene pool. They are Chunin, Hatake. How many times must I repeat to you that you cannot coddle them forever? You've seen what Danzo is trying to do to the Yamanaka clan. Do you think you'll be in a better or worse position to counteract them as a mere Jonin, or as Hokage? As Hokage, I won't be able to go on missions with them. I'll be busy with paperwork. I will have more power, but there will also be more layers of the chain of command between them and me, Kakashi said softly. The Sandaime lifted an eyebrow. Unless, Kakashi frowned as he tried to parse the hidden meaning, and then his face caught up to his brain. No. No. No, 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 no. Which was, again, absolute bullshit, because they had fucking been over this before. They had been talking about this for the last few weeks. Kakashi, being Kakashi, knew about it the moment it had been brought up. Shikamaru, being Shikamaru, had also probably found out through his own means, and then told the others. Hear me out, absolutely not. They are barely 14 and a day. Kakashi exploded. Lightning crackled in the air. The building rattled. All around the Hokage Tower, ANBU guards and paperwork Chunin alike were shaking in their sandals. It took the Sandaime all of his waning strength to hold Kakashi down. Kakashi! I am not asking you to send them out on infant assassinations. The Sandaime roared over the din. For heaven and earth, Kakashi, calm down before we rethink you as Hokage. If you're going to act like a child every time your paranoid little brain perceives a threat to your students. I thought that was what ANBU did. Kakashi snapped. Just because you did nothing but suicide missions. Missions you chose, by the way, not missions we force you to take. While an ANBU doesn't mean every ANBU does that. The Sandaime hissed. Field agents obviously have a higher casualty rate than the regular forces, but there is no way we are sending Naruto out of the village. Guarding a foreign Jinchuriki like Gaara within the village is an S-rank task. TNI also fall under ANBU jurisdiction, and their casualty rate is just about even with that of the desk Chunin. Literally there are 101 excuses you can use, young and inexperienced, or only child clan heirs or a living Jinchuriki in a time where all the others have disappeared. The point is, they will be reporting directly to you and only you, and no one else can tell them what to do. And anyway, since when do you care about what other people think of you? Since you and Jiraiya and Tsunade and all the clan heads and whoever the fuck else got this frankly ridiculous idea to make me Hokage, what am I going to do? Make them ANBU and then keep them as paperwork drones in my office while I send out literally all the others on suicide missions? For fuck's sake, Kakashi, that's not what all ANBU do. As a regular Jonin sensei, I can advocate for them because that's expected of me. I can't give them special treatment as Hokage. I can't go on missions with them because I'll be stuck inside, with stupid meetings with stupid people. I'm bad for this. Make Jiraiya or Tsunade do it. They don't have any children that they're still emotionally connected to. Come the fuck on. I don't understand why you're being so immature about this. The Sandaime narrowed his eyes. You already knew. Of course you already knew. Don't try to bargain with me, Kakashi. It's not going to work. 1. It was worth a shot, Kakashi smirked, and 2. It already did. There was no way you weren't going to stick them into ANBU. But at least now they're not going on field missions. Unless you want to admit that they're there for some reason other than simply keeping an eye on them? He challenged. The Sandaime placed his head in his palms. He'd walked right into that one. Whatever. It was a compromise he could live with. Oh, perfect. Then you know where I am going with this. You know that certain jobs require one to be in peak condition. Kakashi frowned, possibly wondering where he was going with this. I am, and it has come to my attention, Kakashi, that while you can be a Jonin with the Hiraishin no Jutsu alone, but not a Hokage. Especially not a new Hokage. Men like Oanoki and I can get away with our age because we have been here so long that our experience outweighs the deterioration of our bodies, said the Sandaime. He held up a hand to prevent Kakashi's inevitable interruption, though what a hand could do to stop Kakashi from running his mouth when he wanted the Sandaime didn't know. Oh great. I know exactly where you are going with this. I know you hate hospitals, Kakashi, but I will have to ask you to swing by and visit Tsunade as soon as possible. She and her new student have something for you. A revolutionary medical procedure, if you will. The operation will be lengthy, but worth every second, I guarantee you. Ask. Coming from the Hokage, that meant order. And though Kakashi had disobeyed orders many times in the past, he knew better than to disobey this one once he found out the full details, as much as he might stall beforehand. You said the same thing about that one movie. Remember? The book version of Lady Benny and the Magic Cucumber had not been a poorly done knockoff of Aika Aika, seeing as it had been published before Jiraiya had even been born. But of course Kakashi was choosing to focus on the fact that Hiruzen had been deceived by the movie, which in no way did the book credit, right at this crucial point in an argument. I have been assured by Tsunade, Shizen, and Hinata Hyuga that this procedure has been proven successful 100% of the time on dozens of volunteers. They have spent the past few months perfecting the technique. It will help you. You will go. The Sandaime tapped his fingers on his desk impatiently while he watched Kakashi try to work his way around deciding whether those volunteers were actual shinobi with chakra-related injuries or voluntold forgotten prisoners of war turned experimental subjects. It was amazing, the sheer level of petulant pouting Kakashi was capable of even with several layers of masks covering his face. What if I don't want to? Are you really going to do this? Now, of all times? Something that can actually help you for once? I don't care how much you hate hospitals, the Sandaime ordered. You are going to go, and you are going to go right this instant. I'm not talking about the hospital. I'm talking about Hokage. Me. It's a bad idea, Hiruzen sighed. Are we still on about that? I know, Kakashi. I know. Kakashi opened his mouth, about to argue further, and then blinked. What? I said that I know. You. Hokage. It's a bad idea. That doesn't change anything. Because of all the bad ideas, you're the least bad. Kakashi tilted his head. You sure about that? Why do you think you'd be such a terrible Hokage? I don't know exactly why. But based on what I know about myself, where I've been, who I've met, I can make a couple of guesses. If you make me Hokage, you'd be playing directly. He suddenly went silent. Playing directly into what? I don't know. I don't have time for your games, Kakashi. I'm not playing games right now. I genuinely can't recall. You, Kakashi Hatake? Can't remember something. Forget it. It doesn't matter. Kakashi did that thing with his eyelids where he made them look even fatter and sleepier than normal, which always drove Hiruzen into irrational anger. Kakashi knew it did, and it worked. Though the Sandaime wanted to push, this conversation had been going on for far too long already, and he had Hokage duties and other shit to do that didn't involve babysitting an overgrown toddler. An overgrown toddler that he was about to give supreme executive power to. Joy. What about my kids? What about them? Will you tell them or shall I? I think it's up to you, Kakashi. There's no way to spare them. The question is how much you can trust them to react as you will predict. You can tell them, not me. Assuming they haven't already figured it out. Kakashi blinked once, twice, and then said okay. The Sandaime lifted an eyebrow. You're not even going to argue? Kakashi shook his head. What are you going to do? I don't know. Go home. Take a nap. Mentally prepare myself for the hospital visit, and so on and so forth. Oh, you meant telling the kids. I'll burn that bridge when I get there. Maybe I'll let them figure it out for themselves. I bet Shikamaru will be so pleased to have another puzzle. He acts like he hates them, but if he never had a mystery for the rest of his life he'd make one himself just to alleviate the boredom. Konoha Central Hospital. Kakashi was only doing this because it would keep them safe. He'd promised himself this. They would be safe. Hard to believe, but it was the only way he knew, so Kakashi went. Approximately 18 hours, 47 minutes, and 31 seconds later, Obito Uchiha's left Sharingan flared back to life. Chapter 69, Blink Once, Jiraiya's house. It was no secret, between him and the Sandaime, that the man wasn't going to last much longer. And really, for anyone with a bit of common sense. No matter how sharp a man's mind was, there was only so much arthritis he could take before he couldn't sign papers anymore. But Jiraiya knew he'd be a poor choice. Unlike young Minato, he was terribly disorganized when it came to administrative duties. Same with Tsunade. Her short temper would make the office drones' lives a massive hell, but Jiraiya had a pretty good justification for this intolerable behavior. Like most shinobi, he wore a mask, even though it wasn't necessarily on his face. To live in his world you had to have some sort of disguise to fall back on. And his just happened to be the tough guy persona. Just like how Shikaku Nara had that brilliant but lazy appearance, or like how his old sensei now played the pipe-smoking, rocking chair grandfather stereotype, or how his student's student was 50% gadfly and 49% troll. No joke. That was how he described himself to anyone who was obviously obsessive-compulsive about trivial things. It still was a reflection of his inner self, because all disguises did that in some way or another, but it was in no way actually laid down as thick as he pretended it was. Shikaku Nara certainly was no lazier than the rest of Konoha. He had a 9-to-5 job in headquarters and did it well. Old Sarutobi, though he did hide a much meaner, cutthroat politician behind his gray hairs, still was a kind man at heart, and would have gladly thrown away the hat for a chance to actually be the kindly old grandfather he had always wanted to be, and should have been, if that little idiot Minato hadn't gone and gotten himself killed. That was why they had considered Kakashi in the first place. He certainly did have the skills on paper, good strategist, politically savvy, not naturally cruel but not afraid to be ruthless if the situation required. And even though they made jokes about how God save us all, we're all going to die, damn dog whelp, I for one welcome our new scarecrow overlords, Sakumo's revenge, bet he's laughing at us from the afterlife, they could never entirely discard the idea. Simply because Kakashi was not as insane as he pretended he was, even if he was definitely more emotionally unstable than he let on. Although Kakashi, Jiraiya didn't know what to think. All the poets claimed that masks were a piece of your own soul. A corny line, but it was true. And it was ironic, how in every attempt a man tried to hide himself, he only revealed himself to the world even more, to those who were willing to look. So either Kakashi's was so well crafted and complex that even Jiraiya himself was seeing it at a wrong angle, or he was so screwed up on the inside, and he didn't blame him if he was, that his everyday behavior really was a genuine self-portrait of his own cracked and damaged person. Or maybe it was both. Who knew? Best of what we have available, so let's just hope a job like this doesn't break him, Jiraiya muttered to himself. Depressing is what it is, old boy. Since when did we content ourselves with good enough? Next thing you know we'll be simply picking whoever's the least bad. Jiraiya? Who are you talking to? Gaara asked, peeking around the corner. Old pervert's just talking to himself again. It's what he does, Naruto yelled. It's how he staves off the loneliness when there's no hot girls around to do it for him. Watch who you're calling old brat, Jiraiya snapped. I'll whoop your bratty ass like I did to your bratty father, brat. I'd knock you out in half a second with my ultra-improved sexy jutsu. Not if I beat you into the dirt before you can even form the hand signs. Ha! You have to get off your back first, assuming you're not busy doing something else. Or someone else, but that's doubtful. How much action have you gotten now that Sasuke's pretty face is sticking around to get all the female attention? Why, you little, the real village hidden in the mist. That was fast, Mei said. She gripped the little ice mirror Haku had presented her with before he and Zabuza had left for their quest to find Kisame Hashigaki. It was the only way they could quickly communicate. Mei just hoped that the method was as secure as Haku claimed it was. You are sure the information is accurate? Absolutely sure. I hear everything in these walls. The man you believe to be controlling Yagura is someone named Tobi, and he is the same man controlling the Akatsuki right now. Kisame told us, and I went and confirmed it for myself, Haku said. He has a Sharingan just one, in his right side. His right side? Are you sure? The right, not the left? The right side. I am sure. Any clues to his true identity? Mei asked. No. No one apart from himself knows anything about his past. I doubt even Nagato and Konan know, and they seem to speak directly with him on a regular basis, Haku said. That's what I assume they do, every time they disappear and leave us on our own. As far as I am concerned, they do no real work in capturing Jinchuriki. That is our job. Yagura was a Jinchuriki. As much as he needed to die, Mei did not want the power of the Three Tails to fall out of the Mist's hands, not when they had already lost the Six Tails. This Akatsuki was a massive threat then, for if they were in the habit of collecting the tailed beasts, then they already knew where to find the Sanbai. Rumor had it that many other Jinchuriki had already been captured, including one of Kumo's own preciously guarded hosts. Any connection to a girl named Rin Noira, Kakashi Hatake, or the fourth Hokage? We cannot say for certain. I have never met him. I cannot speak with him about the subject even if I did. He does not appear before us. Nagato and Konan are his figurehead leaders. They are the only ones who are supposed to know of his existence. They, and Kisame, whom he had approached in person, possibly Itachi Uchiha as well, for he also displays hints that he, too, knows of the existence of Tobi, Haku reported. Mei hummed. If not her, then how about the Three Tails? What is his plan for it? They plan to capture it, like all the rest. No special treatment? None that I know of. Thank you, Haku. You are dismissed. Stay safe, Mei said, putting the ice mirror away. She then turned to Ao. Well, we know this Tobi person is behind Nagato, leader of the Akatsuki. We are also fairly certain that he and Kakashi Hatake are different people, because Kakashi Hatake has the Sharingan in his left eye. But obviously the right eye had to come from somewhere too. You've heard the story. The eye was a gift from his dying teammate, who was an Uchiha, true, but the kid's dead. He's been dead for a while now. He wasn't even significant. No one remembers his name, Ao pointed out. No one remembered this, Rin nor a girl, either, Mei responded, and yet she seems highly involved in this whole mess. Kakashi Hatake, the Yandame Hokage, a dead girl with no outstanding name or bloodline, and a dead boy from a dead clan. All these people no one's ever heard of, and for some reason I can just tell that those brats are at the very heart of this whole mess. Call it instinct if you will. The pieces are all fitting together, we're just missing the most important ones. But the ones we have so far are right. I just know it, Ao frowned. If Yagura is being controlled by a stolen eye, that just makes our whole quest harder. To be honest, we're in no better position than before. A mysterious man with one Sharingan eye on his right side. Who knows? Someone else could have scooped an eye out from his dead body. Someone else could have scooped an eye out from any dead Uchiha, and there's lots of them. Anyone could have stolen a Sharingan when no one was looking. If Kakashi Hatake survived an eye implant at the age of 13, then there's a high likelihood that there's someone else who could have done the same thing. Well, that doesn't matter if we can get to Tobi physically. We know where he is and what he is. Any questioning about his history can come later. This man has a Sharingan, he's been in Mist before, and Kisame Hashigaki, if he's speaking the truth, basically confirmed for us that he's the one we want. He and Yagura are the same person. We kill him, we kill Yagura, Mei declared vehemently. Ao took a moment to lean against the wall. You make it sound so easy, Mizuki-sama. Not that I doubt Zabuza-san's abilities as a shinobi, for he is a very skilled man, but so is Kisame Hashigaki. What if Hashigaki is trying to trick us? Under the orders of this Akatsuki leader person, to test his loyalties? Even if he was telling the truth, what if he is mistaken? Zabuza will not be able to detect a lie then, even if the statement is a falsehood. Or, what if this Tobi man is just another layer to the subterfuge? We already know that he is controlling the Akatsuki using another person as a puppet. Is it not so difficult to think that he might be a puppet for some other person? A chain of Sharingan eyes? Mei put her chin in her hands. And just how many errant Sharingan eyes are there? Ao held up his hands defensively. I'm not saying that your theories are incorrect. I just advise you to be careful. There's many other paths our investigations could take us, and we shouldn't linger on one too much, however much more plausible it might be than the others. We don't want to accidentally end up pursuing the wrong trail again, as we did when we attacked Kakashi Hatake before. I thank you for your caution, Ao, Mei said, but every missed opportunity is a failure. It is true that Kakashi Hatake was probably the wrong man, but we learned valuable information from that probing mission all the same. We have no other leads, so we might as well take this one. Even if we are wrong again, we might learn some more about the Akatsuki in the process. This will be a great bargaining chip in the near future. After all, aren't the other Kage dealing with the same problems from this little terrorist organization? Of course, Mizuki-sama, Ao said. But we can't just waltz in there and kill him. He's running an organization full of S-class missing nin, one that we have sneaked one of our own operatives into, Mei tried. Yes, but still. You can't force everything onto Zabuza. He is skilled, but he has his limits, and here, he is surrounded by men just as dangerous, if not even more so, than he is. Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Mei slumped in her chair. But what else can we do? Mist is low on men as it is. Yagura had all the good ones killed years ago. Unless, perhaps we can get allies. No, that's too dangerous. We can't let Yagura know anything just yet. Maybe not allies, but a tip-off to one of the other villages that might be able to help. It'll be in their best interests to defeat the Akatsuki anyway, and then we won't be roped into any sort of commitment, and they'll do our job for us so we won't be risking any of our own in the process. Yes, that might work. Which village, then? Ao crossed his arms. I'm thinking Konoha, Mei murmured. Ao narrowed his eyes. Can we even trust them? Maybe not, but what choice do we have, apart from being alone? Sand is being led by a teenager. A very intelligent one, for her age, but still, a teenager. We have bad blood with IWA. We are not going back there. And Kumo only works for itself. Konoha, at least I'm sure, will do their part, because any stolen Sharingan is a threat to them, but we have to kill Yagura first. We can't let anyone know what's going on. Well, yes, of course. After we kill Yagura, then we'll see about telling the Hokage. I'm hoping that by then, the Sandaime will be retired or dead. He's too old and experienced for my tastes. It'll be easier to deal with someone a bit younger and more open-minded. Ao snorted. You mean naive, whatever, Amigakure. Any idea what Iwagakure and Kumogakure plan to do? Nagato asked. Konan shook her head. The Tsuchikage and Reikage are still prevaricating. They are definitely preparing for war. We're just not sure against who. The Kazekage wants revenge against Konoha for stealing her brother, and the Tsuchikage might join her to regain their village's honor after their loss in the last World War. But the Reikage is just in there for profit and profit alone, so therefore he is the least reliable part of their conspiracy. The Hokage made sure of that. A strange day, seeing Sunigakure and Iwagakure banding together for once. Their villages have had bad blood between them for generations, Nagato murmured. What does Tobi want? Kisame asked. I don't think Tobi cares. It has nothing to do with us. Someone is going to be attacking someone else. Whether they all gang up to destroy Konoha, or turn on each other in multiple tiny factions, doesn't matter. Both choices cause chaos, giving us a better chance to swoop in and seize the remaining Jinchuriki, said Nagato. In a state of war, it's unlikely that the hidden villages would want to keep their secret weapons unused. The ones that still have any, anyway. That would be Konoha and Kumo then. And technically Kiri, but no one gives a shit about them, I think. No offense, Kisame and Zabuza. None taken, Kisame smiled. I for one don't care about them anymore. It's why I'm here with you, after all, smooth talker. You know what I mean. No one likes to hear their style of combat disparaged, even if you no longer have any political affiliation. Speaking of Kiri, why is Yagura still around? Shouldn't you have captured him and extracted the three tails ages ago? Zabuza prodded. I don't know. I think he wants to keep Kirigakure weak. I hear vague rumors Meitarumi has rounded up most of their competent surviving shinobi and has formed a pretty sizable and influential rebel faction that has been increasing in number and power for several years now, said Konan. If we take out Yagura, she will be the most likely person to move in to fill that power vacuum. We want less resistance when the time comes, not more. Having someone cruel and incompetent in power is to our advantage. I wonder when Sarutobi will die already, Kisame muttered. He dies the day Oinoki does, Sasori snickered. I heard rumors that Kakashi Hataki's going to become the next Hokage. You knew him when you were in ANBU, Itachi. What do you think that will be like? Kisame asked. Itachi blinked slowly, then shrugged. He's competent. Kisame looked worryingly at the dark spot on Itachi's sleeve where he had covered his mouth. Ah. Competent. Is that all you have to say? Anything else? How dangerous is he? Slightly unstable. Acts insane. Actually plans a lot of things very carefully, and then pretends that luck was on his side. Obsessive-compulsive. Overprotective for a very small group of people he's close to. Unpredictable. Itachi shrugged. Like I said, whatever he chooses to do, he'll be competent. Whether or not he's dangerous is up for you to decide. I personally think anyone reasonably competent is dangerous. Okay, yeah, but he's an S-rank ninja. He's always dangerous. The question is, how dangerous? More dangerous than what we're used to. Or what? More dangerous? Sasori snorted. Please explain to me how someone like him can get more dangerous. I'd love to know. Konoha Central Hospital, or number 7. Excellent work, Hinata, Tsunade said, snapping off her white rubber gloves. Are we all cleared for closing up? Sector 7, good. Sector 8, good. All sectors, good. Full functionality has been restored. All Tenketsu active. Yes, we are clear. Wonderful. Go and rest your eyes for a bit. Shizen, you keep the surrounding area sterile of contaminants and foreign chakra while I take care of the post-op stabilization. Everyone else, you know your parts. Steady now. This is the most important patients of all the important patients we've had. No pressure, of course. No pressure, Hinata muttered behind her surgical mask. There was a little murmur as the other medic Nin in the room trotted into position, while Hinata moved a little bit out of the way to make space for them. She sighed in relief, flexing her fingers and blinking her eyes several times. They had just come out of close to a straight full day of surgery. Officially, she, Tsunade, and Shizen were the leads, but in reality, the operating room was filled with at least a dozen other medics and assistants over the course of the 18 hours of grueling work. This was general practice for this particular medical procedure even on the regular test subjects. Thanks to her Byakugan, Tsunade's top-notch training, and the remaining healthy cells they'd managed to harvest from Haiden's cancerous corpse, they had made a breakthrough in regrowing dead chakra pathways. Breakthrough, of course, didn't mean easy. Due to her eyes, Hinata was the only one capable of manually cutting out every single inch of burned-out chakra pathway and replacing them with bits of stem cell derived from Kakashi's own DNA injected into Haiden's self-regenerating cells. This had taken the majority of the time, and there was no other way to do it without causing other unforeseen damage. The first time she'd done it, it had taken her well over 24 hours. She'd gone home and crashed until 3 in the afternoon as soon as it was over. Through practice and sheer force of will, she'd managed to slice off several hours from the procedure. That didn't mean she was less careful, of course, as long as your hands were steady, and Hinata's hands were very, very steady at this point. Making quicker slices resulted in cleaner cuts. Afterwards, she had been given a few hours' break to recharge while Tsunade and Shizen used their healing chakra to stimulate the regenerative cells to grow back into brand new chakra pathways. During the regrowing process, several other Hyuga medics were called in to supervise the process, just to make sure that everything was forming correctly and in the right place. Then, she had to use her eyes again to check over the regrown chakra pathways one by one to make sure they were all formed correctly and in the right place. They had had a 100% success rate so far. Everyone here was considered the best of the best in Konoha. Everyone in this room was the best of the best. Everyone in the room had been well rested and properly primed when they entered the room. Even Jiraiya had stopped by at one point to observe the proceedings when they were starting to get close to the original site of Orochimaru's cursed seal. There were no excuses for screwing up, and so obviously no one wanted to screw up. Only the best care for the best shinobi. They needed him. There were some things that couldn't be done with both arms dead, no matter how skilled the man behind they were attached to was. They needed him to be in peak condition, as in, better than he was now, even though all he had been doing for the past 2 years, ever since he'd been landed with Team 7, was train the hell out of himself in a manner that he hadn't forced himself to do since his ANBU days. Hinata knew how dangerous Naruto's sensei was. Asuma and Kurenai always complained about him, in a good-natured ribbing sort of way, of course. And then, of course, watching Naruto transform from a silly little academy prankster into a proper ninja almost overnight was similarly terrifying. She'd transformed too. So, maybe that wasn't so unusual. Hinata's mouth twitched. Well, no one could say that her debt to Shikamaru wasn't repaid. She felt happy. More confident than she had ever been, ever. Now was probably a good time to do it. Konoha Central Hospital, room 325. Numbness. Emptiness. And then, a flood of warmth. Liquid. Then heat. Sharp, stabbing pain. The burn of electricity, flooding through his veins again, like 1,000 tiny needles. His eye throbbed. His other eye. Obito's eye. Kakashi blinked once, twice, slowly. He lifted his gaze to the polished metal surface of one of the pans set beside the hospital bed. A red sliver stared back at him like a crescent of a bloody moon. Crackling, he stumbled unsteadily to his feet, dragging the bedsheets with him in a clumsy clanging. He winced. He was generally accustomed to his own silence, but after so long without chakra in his arms, the rest of his senses had dulled accordingly. Everything now felt sharper, brighter, louder, amplified beyond what he had gotten used to. The pain didn't matter, though. He could have wept tears of joy after dealing with that awful, cold, civilian-level numbness that came from a completely non-functional chakra system for the past year and a half. Because feeling something was better than feeling nothing at all. It came from his dead chakra system finally receiving energy again after so long, like a dried-up riverbed suddenly being flooded by rain. It was simultaneously torture and unbearable relief. To have been denied his chakra, even more precious to him than blood itself, for so long. It was his again. Easy there. A hand on his shoulder steadied him. Thank you, Hinata, he muttered. His limbs were shaking. His fingers vibrated with pain, but also excitement, anticipation, power. This was the closest thing to true happiness he'd ever felt in a long time. We've been monitoring you in shifts. Guess you woke up during mine. The surgery was successful. No rejection, internal bleeding or otherwise. I'll call for Tsunade in a second. How long do I have to rest for? He asked. Not too long, but you should take it easy for a few days while we bring your chakra flow back up to 100%. Only basic ninjutsu for now. You should be back to Raikiri by the end of the week. I meant leaving the hospital. Tsunade and Shizen will come to look you over one last time to make sure you don't have any ill side effects. You're important, so forgive us for being extra careful with you. You should be able to check out of here by the end of the day, though we'll ask you to come back every day for the next week, and then weekly afterwards, just for observation. Hinata scribbled something down on a checklist. Really? So soon? I would have expected more forced rest from a major surgery. She nodded. Generally, yes, but we found through experience that healing actually works better in this case when we allow light exercise and movement. Gets the chakra flowing again, better than lying still in a bed. More chakra flow means you acclimate to your new equilibrium faster, which means you heal faster. Different from a physical wound, I see. Kakashi experimentally flexed his arm and fingers again. Whatever the Hyuga girl had done to his arm escaped him for the most part, but if there was one thing he did know, it was that now his arm effing hurt. And it was glorious. It'll fade in about a week. You'll be back to normal in no time. Kakashi could barely hear her. Nor could he hear Tsunade when she walked in and started asking him questions about how he was feeling. He simply went through the motions, like a robot on auto-reply mode, answering when spoken to. His heart was beating in his ears in some foreign, unfamiliar, indescribable feeling that some other, more normal person would describe as joy. The Hokage Tower. Outside, there was a bright flash, and the sound of things exploding. Chaos tumbled in the market square. In the background, a cacophony of arguing merchants and cursing policemen mixed in with sirens and the squawking of loose chickens. Hiruzen Sarutobi sighed, stood his weary body up from his desk, and dragged himself over to stick his head out the window. Hataki! Behave yourself. In the distance, he saw a pig tumble down a pile of barrels onto a seesaw on the children's playground by the park. The poor thing landed on one side of the seesaw with a squeal. The barrels landed on the other. It got launched into the air. From this angle, it looked like it was flying. Chapter 70. Taken but not given. Training Ground 3. The elation of having regained his ninjutsu had lasted a full day. For a full week, Kakashi had run amok around the village, causing general mayhem for others and entertainment for himself. He messed up several training grounds and disrupted several electrical appliances. He played with his dog summons. He tortured his cute students. He nabbed free drinks from both sides of the rusty kunai and the polished kunai several times by alternating through several disguises and left a variety of different people with the tab. He exhausted himself several times firing off every single one of the 1,000 ninjutsu in his book, that was approximately one ninjutsu every 10 minutes, and got yelled at by Tsunade for it. He had a good day. Several good days. Then reality caught up to him, and he remembered part of the reason why they had been so desperate to find a solution to his chakra dilemma in the first place. Congratulations. You've all been promoted, Kakashi said, tossing his team the papers. Shikamaru sighed. I thought ANBU was outside the regular chain of command? So this isn't exactly a promotion, it's just administrative clearance paperwork. Kakashi glared at him. So you knew this was coming then? Great. Saves me the trouble. You could be a little more grateful, you know. Shikamaru smirked. Sure, sensei. You're getting promoted too, right? I don't want mine any more than you want yours. Fair enough. He cocked his head. I heard from, sources, that a certain genocidal clan killer was supposed to get that position. And then all of a sudden it was retracted. Know anything about it? I know bits and pieces. I suppose Jiraiya would know more about the whys than me. Naruto shuffled through the fine print, narrowing his eyes at the more difficult kanji. We're like Chunin and Anbyu, and we still have you as our Jonin sensei? Firstly, yes. Secondly, no, you're not Anbyu yet and won't be until you complete your specialized training. Thirdly, yes, you do, and you will still have a Jonin sensei even if you become Jonin yourselves with students of your own. Ino's eyes were glittering with stars, in a fake and sarcastic sort of way. We'll be one big family. With a happy ending. Just like in the movies. Will you be training us? Naruto asked. Yes and no. Training you directly could be construed as favoritism. Not that it matters, but I don't want to give anyone any preventable ammunition. I will, however, be supervising. It sounds so fucking stupid, doesn't it? But it's really for your own protection. If it even counted as protection, when said protection was potentially worse than whatever danger they were being shielded from, they'd look for any weakness they had. Any slight chink to turn into fragmentation within the Yamanaka clan, or instability within the Kyubi Jinchuriki, or danger from the Nara clan. Anything and everything would be taken advantage of. Sort of like why they stuffed us into the Chunin exams early, Shikamaru noted. Exactly. Kakashi knew as well as they did that with Ino as a teenage clan head, anything he could do as a mere Jonin sensei wasn't enough. It was never enough. Which is why we're going through this A&B thing in the first place. You're not ready now. But you will be. We'll make you ready, Ino swallowed. What if I'm not? You will be. That is all. There is no other option, Kakashi told her shortly. You will be ready. No matter what it takes. He had to become Hokage to protect them. For Yamanaka, even if he couldn't really do anything substantial, his mere presence showed that simply staying as a regular Jonin sensei simply wasn't enough anymore. He had to accept that this was going to be his life now. The hat, the robe, the trappings of office and rank that came with it. Even if it left a sour taste in his mouth, for reasons he couldn't explain, every time he tried to explore that part of himself, he found his mind wandering off in a different direction, as if someone had put a mental block there. A mental block cleverly disguised as a hallway slanting in the opposite direction, a whisper of a suggestion rather than an outright denial. The only reason why he ever noticed it at all in the first place was because whenever he thought of the word Hokage he thought of Minato-sensei and Obito. Both of them sunny in ways he decidedly was not. Somehow, there was this thing in him that knew having a Godame Kakashi Hatake would turn out to be the complete opposite of Minato-sensei's and Obito's visions, and therefore disastrous. He would be competent, of course. Kakashi was always dreadfully competent in everything he did. And the history books might even applaud his reign. Whatever influence he wrought wouldn't rear their ugly heads until a couple generations down the line, when the current people in charge could conveniently take the fall because no one alive could properly affix true blame to him. Only he would know the truth. And maybe his ever-perceptive students. Why not the Uchiha? Naruto interjected. I mean, Sasuke is technically a clan head too, but they're not bothering him any. The Uchiha clan isn't a clan any longer, Naruto, even if officially the papers still say they are. He's the only one left. Sure, they can spend time and resources on him, but if they do, he's just one person. Even though the Yamanaka is a more minor clan, in terms of political influence they far outclass the Uchiha. This seemed to get through to Naruto. Right, because Choji's clan and Shikamaru's clan are allied with her clan. So she's technically carrying the weight of 3 clans. And since Choji is on the same team as Hinata and Sasuke, they're bringing the Hyuga and Uchiha along too. So it's actually 5 clans in this pyramid. Exactly, Naruto rubbed his nose. But why are they trying so hard though? Anyone who knows Ino, and that's everyone, knows that she's not dumb. Plus, she's got us. They can't just, control her so easily. Can they? I should hope not. Ino interjected. Doesn't stop them from trying. I mean, the Sandame's not a fool either, but that doesn't mean he can't be influenced, Shikamaru pointed out. Maybe Fuzz there is some kind of reverse psychology thing. Establish himself as a bad guy, and then just say the opposite of what he wants everyone to do, so they were all on the same page here. Good. Kakashi himself was still trying to figure out Fuzz's purpose. So far Kakashi couldn't tell what Fu was for except for to sow chaos and distrust. Danzo was smart. He knew that if Ino died, Shikaka would make sure everyone thought it was him, even if he had no proof. The clan heads, thanks to the presence of Shikamaru's butterfly lady in the capital, and Danzo's own secrecy over the past few decades, had the edge on propaganda. Not to mention, if Ino died, Kakashi would definitely go berserk and hunt him down. Anyway, even if Fu somehow managed to become the Yamanaka clan head, the rest of the clan wouldn't listen to him anyway, and in fact try to accident him at the first convenient opportunity. He'd be losing on both ends. It would be more advantageous to allow Ino to live while having Fu control her behind the scenes, but even that was too stupid for a man like Danzo to consider. Ino was too smart and headstrong to have some random cousin she'd never met suddenly come into her life and boss her around. The clan knew that Fu was Danzo's obvious puppet, so they wouldn't listen to any orders Fu tried to push through Ino. That was obvious. Fu doesn't need to order around some clan members anyway. What's he going to do? Make them rearrange the flower pots in the window display? We considered that. Right now we're just making sure he doesn't get to talk at all, Ino said. So, going back to our conversation before, this is the plan. I am rejoining ANBU. You guys, on the other hand, are not ANBU material yet. But you will be, after you complete the pre-ANBU training program. This thing that you 3 are about to go through is specifically designed to get people up to speed, so they can match the high standards set by the Black Ops. Standards of a very different nature from the regular forces. Different? Naruto asked. Technically. Kakashi tapped his chin. I say technically because I've already put you guys through a little bit of it myself. A lot of the stuff I do to you guys is outside of the regular training program. No, really? Ino snarked under her breath. Kakashi whacked the back of her head with his book. Hey, don't get cocky now, I said a little bit. Remember all that fuckery back in your early genin days that you guys were constantly whinging about? Yeah, that. But multiply by 10, or 20, or 100. Shikamaru rolled his eyes and muttered, joy. Physical exertion is only one part of it. It's the psychological conditioning that weeds out most recruits. It is designed to break you down to your core and rebuild you back up like a brainwashed pile of goo. That is why not any random yahoo can slap on the mask and join, even if they technically have the skill, because it's not just about strength. There is a reason why certain chunin with no outstanding power of their own are given the mask and armor without a second thought, while men at the level of Gai-sensei can badger the committee their entire life and never even be considered, except as a joke. There is an unimaginable mental strain that comes with completely sacrificing your own identity, with turning yourself into a nobody, and then an even greater strain that comes with trying to remember yourself after the mask comes off, Kakashi explained. Once you have survived through that, and only then, will you be allowed to formally join ANBU. But when you do so, and this is the second part of this non-mission, it'll be on your own terms. Killing two birds with one stone, you will not only gain the experience you need to shut up any naysayers, but you'll also directly be under the control of the Hokage. So no one else can tell you what to do. Officially, Shikamaru blinked, as if having already expected this speech, and said if this is how the game will be played, if it's inevitable that we must join, then we will play to win. But no matter what, we're staying together. I'm in. The choice we have is not a choice at all. I'm not letting anyone in this team go in there alone. Either they take all of us, or they take none of us, Naruto added. Ino smiled, not happily. She was the one who'd need this the most. You couldn't exactly be a proper Yamanaka clan head without being able to lead Konoha ANBU intelligence services, and you couldn't exactly lead an ANBU division without having gone through the basic ANBU training. Then it settled. We're all in this together. It had been hard on Ino's mother, ever since her husband had died. It was only going to get worse for the poor woman. He promised her he'd keep Ino safe, too, and then Shikamaru's parents, stuck in whatever trap system the power triangles of Konoha had set up for each other, were also begging him to make sure that the resident boy genius didn't bite off any more than he could chew. And, of course, Naruto. His smiles were rarer now, few and far between, and less bright, but they were still there, and Kakashi couldn't possibly let them be extinguished. He had too much respect for Minato-sensei and Kushina to let that happen to their son. Whatever happened, they were sticking together. If he didn't do something now, anyone else might pick them up. And he did not have the time, nor the resources, to find out where Danzo had hidden all of his moles. At least, this way, he'd know exactly who was influencing them. Above all, remember this. Do not get cocky just because you're a bunch of 14-year-olds being recommended for the special forces. ANBU is elite, not simply because of strength. They are elite because of the power that comes with being faceless. You can kill an ANBU soldier, sometimes even more easily than a regular jonin, but you cannot kill ANBU so easily. Get it? A little, said Naruto. So what you're saying is, for all the hype, they're just glorified pawns. When did he get so? He used to be so innocent, Kakashi thought. Oh well. That'll make the desensitization process less difficult for me. ANBU have neither names nor faces for a reason. There is less guilt over sending an ANBU squad to do something a known Chunin or Jonin squad is fit for. The main forces are trained to minimize losses. ANBU are trained to succeed no matter what the cost. They are expected to die. That's screwed up, said Ino. I thought the entire point of this was to not die. And you won't, as long as I have any say in it, Kakashi declared. But what if? Everybody shut the fuck up, Kakashi suddenly snapped. Nobody is fucking dying, do you hear me? All of Team 7 went ramrod straight in shock, Kakashi himself included. He had allowed himself to visibly display his anger outside of the battlefield. That almost never happened. Usually when he was pissed, he'd still hide it behind an equally infuriating smile, all the while planning the offending party's slow and miserable death by 1,000 petty annoyances. How do you know that? Ino ventured. Because even the Hokage knows that if any of you die, the one responsible will be a new name in the graveyard, consequences be damned, even if that means me being a new missing nin in the bingo book, he said. That's why. They all stared at him in shocked silence. Not horrified, thankfully. More like awed. It was a little awkward, to be honest, Kakashi cleared his throat. As long as I'm alive, none of you will die, he declared. Here he faltered, because his promises really meant nothing. But the words came out with conviction anyway. I promise. This was an oath he'd die before breaking. He'd break every other promise he made before breaking this one. He would keep them safe. Okay. He clapped his hands, and suddenly he was back to his normal, fake cheerful self. Who wants ice cream? As long as you're not the one making it, Naruto muttered. Am I hearing disrespect, The Yamanaka clan compound. Ino wasn't as shocked as she should have been at the revelation that her teacher would be willing to go so far as tarnish his own reputation and honor for a bit of revenge. Really, the only reason why he hadn't gone berserk already was probably because he knew it would hurt Team 7 if he pulled something like that for no reason. No, she thought, relaxing. They wouldn't dare provoke Kakashi Hatake. The established powers already had too much to lose. They and their carefully laid plans, surely as a row of falling dominoes. Danzo, the Sandaime, even Shikamaru's father, they were incapable of taking certain risks because were bound by their responsibilities and obligations. Their decisions were a constant state of cost-benefit analysis. Was this life worth that consequence? Was this advantage worth that action? All of them wanted to kill each other, and yet all of them would not, for the time being, because they all had too much to lose. A state of mutually assured destruction, if you will, and this uneasy balance will continue as long as either of them had a distinct advantage over the other. Neither of them would strike until they were sure that doing so would not draw disproportionate retribution. But Kakashi-sensei was a random variable, the one ticking time bomb that threatened to tip over their carefully balanced game boards and blow away all their meticulously positioned little pieces to smithereens. He was the bowling ball in their game of chess, the tinfoil square in their deck of cards. No one was safe from him, because he had nothing to lose except his own life and those of Team 7, and the first of that was questionable because sometimes Ino was unsure if he even cared if he died. It made her oddly proud, knowing despite all their influence and might, they still had to tread carefully around just one man. They feared him, not because he was any more powerful than they were, but because he had more freedom to act than they did. Freedom. Since she was small, Ino had always believed it to be such a lovely word. How could something as wonderful as wanting autonomy ever be bad? Wasn't free will something that every mind and every soul were all supposed to be entitled to? Wasn't it? She didn't want to answer that question. Kakashi-sensei was a free spirit, after all, and look at him. The only thing keeping him contained was Team 7's survival. Freedom and truth, truth and freedom. Odd, wasn't it? That was the main thing about Shikamaru. He didn't need any other sort of persuasion other than the truth. She tried to give him hypothetical moral dilemmas before, on boring days when there was nothing to be done except convince herself that she was a good person. They never worked on him. Shikamaru always thought about everything in a realistic manner, and realistic situations usually always had a third choice. If there was no third choice, then always choose the one that's more likely to save more people. A staunch mathematical calculation. No emotions involved. Numbers didn't have feelings. To him, there was always another way out, an exception to the rule, if only one thought hard enough, using his brain and not his heart. If the situation was not realistic, he would not consider it, because then there was no point. Ino had then tried the classic teammate captured, which one do you choose thing. As usual, the answer, according to him, depended on the situation, because there was always the prospect of a double capture and trade, or using Naruto's clones and Kawarimi, or summon animals. But what if we couldn't do those things? Well, we can, so don't worry about it. But what if there's a massive chakra plague and we're all useless except for taijutsu? And these guys are crazy bastards who aren't going to negotiate anyway. They're forcing me to choose between two people, so I'm pretty sure that's called negotiating. And before you go into a different scenario, no, I'm not going to kill an uncaptured teammate to save a captured one. That's just stupid. Either way, one person is going to die, and if they revoke the deal they made with me and kill the captured teammate anyway, that's two people dead, except both of them are dead because of me. One because I'm a treacherous bastard who would kill my own ally, and the other because I'm an idiot in thinking that people like that would keep their word. But what if we're both on opposite ends of a battlefield, and we're dying and you're too low on chakra to make a clone and you can help one of us but you won't have time to help the other? Whoever's physically closer to me, obviously. What if we're the same distance away? The exact same distance? The odds of that are astronomical. But if I'm too low on chakra to make a clone, I'd pick the person who's less injured, who I have a better chance of saving. What if we're equally injured? I'd go for whoever I happen to see first, and stick to that decision. Shikamaru in a nutshell. Then again, her too. She cared about both Naruto and Shikamaru equally, and would never sacrifice one for the other, even if it was the logical thing to do. He had the right of it, she realized. Don't bother with making a choice. Let the numbers decide. Saving one was better than saving no one because you couldn't decide. Maybe she was not so different. It wasn't as if any of them were good or bad. They were ninja. They made war and lies for a living. There was no point in trying to justify what they did, because there was no point in it. The only thing they could do was accept it, and move on. This paradox, that her self-determination was by definition bound to the self-determination of another person, effectively proving all that she had worked for and grew up believing might be impossible, was too terrifying to contemplate. And so Ino just shut that thought down and pretended that she had never entertained it in the first place. She'd be leaving her nice little bedroom tomorrow for, she wasn't sure what, but some ugly dome of concrete, surely. Best to get in a good night's sleep now while she could. The Hyuga clan compound. Hayashi Hyuga knew something was off when he passed through the doorway. What is the meaning of this? He snarled, shoving his way past a random branch family member. Not even a shinobi, some insignificant child whose name he couldn't be bothered to remember at this moment in time. Good to see you too, Hayashi-san. He came to a hard stop and nearly choked. Hinata was there, brazenly wearing the formal clothing and regalia that was normally reserved solely for the clan head. Hanabi and Niji stood a few steps behind her. Around them were a mass of branch family members. It was as if the whole clan had come out today. Hinata. What on earth do you think you're doing? She cocked her head at him in an arrogant little smile. I'm the clan head now, so I believe, whatever I want. The nerve of that. It seemed that while she was no longer quite the failure she was before, she had learned the same lack of respect from Tsunade. If she thought that sheer force of numbers could overwhelm him, she was wrong. Quality beat quantity every time when it came to the Hyuga clan. Hayashi reached out to the mass of caged bird seals with his chakra, intending to yank the chain of punishment. But it was gone. He stumbled in the dark, expecting solid ground and instead tumbling down a step that hadn't been there before. What did you do? Nothing that shouldn't have been done a long time ago, Hinata said. She brushed her hair back from her head. Her bangs fell away and revealed a seal. What on earth? It was a seal, but not a cursed seal. You can't. Hinata flicked the ground with her finger, and the courtyard, fucking, exploded. Cracks opened up in the concrete where her strike had come into contact with the ground. The pebbles in the stone gardens jumped around like sparks from firecrackers. Tree roots were shoved above the ground, ripping cracks into the terracotta walkways that wound between them. The soil was ripped to shreds. From now on, no one shall wear the badge of slavery, she declared. We shall all be equals. Our eyes will all be protected by the same seal, one that does not allow me to dominate any one of you. Make me the clan head, and we shall all walk free. This I swear to you. The authority to choose the next clan head does not reside within the branch family. Hayashi Hyuga burst out desperately. The largest clan in Konoha all turned to face him as one. Hanabi and Niji each took up their positions directly on her left and right. And even a blind man could see, with the backing of the masses, and the approval of both the second and third in line, there was no arguing with her. Hinata smirked. It does now. Kakashi's apartment. If only the other sort of pain faded as quickly as physical pain. It hurt Kakashi so much to have to do this, his precious team. He wanted to lock them away from all the horrors of the world, chain them up in a box forever and never let them out again. But in this case, trying to shield them would only do them more harm. For their sake, he'd have to let them go. All of this was only because he didn't want to lose them. He was a selfish bastard and proud of it. The choice we have is not a choice at all. Either we say yes and succeed, or we die. That night, Kakashi unlocked the hidden panel in the back of his closet for the first time in 7 years, and dragged out the box of secrets he'd hoped he could hide away forever. Kakashi stared at it wordlessly. He had written on this in permanent marker, "Do not open," and "To be burned ASAP," the latter of which he for some reason kept procrastinating for no reason and the former of which he was about to disobey right now. He had sworn to give this up forever. But if it meant keeping his teammates safe, and he swore he would this time, then by the gods he would. They're my cute little students, he laughed to himself joylessly. I have to. Promises were meant to be broken, weren't they? What's putting this armor back on for a few hours, compared to what I had promised you, Obito? What are a few skeletons in my closet, compared to the hundreds of skeletons I've put below the ground? I would rather have them despise my very soul than watch them die. Mask, armor, katana, Konoha's most beloved and hated son had returned.